Hello everyone, and welcome to the Mental Health Commission of Canada's webinar on training to promote psychological health and safety. My name is Tina Corey, and I'm a program manager on the workplace team with the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Just before we get started, a little housekeeping items. If you would like to send any questions or comments, please use the chat function. It can be found on the right-hand side of your screen. If you don't see it, just look at the top for an icon in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. It says chat. It looks like a little bubble. Click on it, and a window will appear for you on the right-hand side of the PowerPoint slides. When you are asking your questions, if you could please use the drop-down menu and select all panelists. So the questions will go to myself as well as our presenters, and we will ask the questions on your behalf. The webinar is also being recorded, and we will post it on the Mental Health Commission's website next month in the webinar archive sections following the presentation. Also, due to the large number of participants today, we have muted all of your phone lines just to eliminate the background noise. As I mentioned, my name is Tina Corey, and I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers for today's webinar. Our guest speakers today include Carolyn Campbell, a Senior Consultant, Psychological Health and Safety with the Public Service Commission for the province of Nova Scotia. You'll also hear from my colleagues, Amy Fogarty, a Business Development Officer with Mental Health First Aid, and Sue Mercer, a Program Consultant with Opening Minds at the Mental Health Commission of Canada. So welcome, everyone. To get us started, I just wanted to mention that here at the Mental Health Commission of Canada, we've developed a number of initiatives, as seen on this slide, to support mental health and wellness at work, both at the organizational level and the individual level. One of the Commission's key pieces of work is to help protect the mental health well-being of employees, was to champion the development of the National Standard for Psychological Health and Safety in the Workplace, or for short, we like to call it the Standard. The first in the world, the Standard was launched in 2013, and we are happy to report that it has been downloaded more than 30,000 times. And this just shows that employers across the country have begun to understand the need to safeguard both the physical well-being and the mental health of their employees. The Standard provides a voluntary framework or a roadmap of sorts to promote mental health and to prevent psychological harm. It includes guidance on resources to help organizations of all sizes and sectors. It is intended to benefit all employees and have a positive effect on organizational health and to facilitate a positive culture shift. Training is also part of the Standard in support of gaining awareness, understanding, and addressing mental health issues for oneself and for others. And we know that employees are hesitant to raise concern about mental illness, especially on the job, due to stigma and fear of judgment. So what we're going to do in today's webinar is we're going to focus on two of our unique training programs, Mental Health First Aid and the Working Mind, that help to improve mental health literacy and reduce stigma, as you can see on the right-hand side and the bottom of the slide. The webinar is going to focus on what the programs are, why you should take them, and how to take them. We will then hear a real-life example from Carolyn to learn about the Nova Scotia Public Service Commission's experience in implementing the two training programs within their workplace. So with that said, I'd like to now turn things over to you, Amy, to get us started.
Thank you, Tina, for the opportunity to speak about Mental Health First Aid in Canada, and good afternoon, good morning, depending on your location, to everyone on the line. Thank you for taking the time to join us today to learn more about workplace mental health training programs. I'm very pleased to speak to you today about Mental Health First Aid in Canada. I'm sure there's a mix of individuals on the line, some of whom are certified instructors, some of whom have taken the training, and some of whom are dialed in now to learn more. We hope to see you at a course in the near future. So today you can expect a brief presentation on Mental Health First Aid, what it is, a brief history of the program, why it is relevant to the workplace, and finally, how can you bring Mental Health First Aid to your organization. So if I sprain my ankle, chances are you'll know what to do. If I have a panic attack, chances are you won't. That is sort of the positioning of mental health first aid, which is the help provided to a person developing a mental health problem or experiencing a mental health crisis. The basic training is a 12-hour course, which can be offered in 2 consecutive days, 2 non-consecutive days, or 4 half-day sessions of 3 hours each. So there is some flexibility with that. Here in Canada, we are proud to offer several adaptations of the training, including mental health first aid for adults who interact with youth, First Nations, Northern Peoples, Inuit, and we are working on finalizing courses for seniors and for the veteran community. Internationally, mental health first aid is a recognized program operating in 23 countries and acts as part of a national mental health strategy in both Australia and Scotland. Historically, mental health first aid was developed in 2001 by Australian researchers at the Centre for Mental Health Research at the Australian National University. In 2006, the Alberta Mental Health Board signed a letter of understanding with Australia to administer, adapt, and disseminate mental health first aid in Canada. Then in 2010, it expanded nationally when mental health first aid came under the auspices of the Mental Health Commission of Canada. So going back to its development, just very quickly, Australian researchers recognize that some mental health problems are more common than many physical health problems, yet many people have very little knowledge about mental illness. This lack of knowledge and understanding promotes fear and stigma. It also inhibits people from promptly seeking the most appropriate help. It can also hold people back from providing appropriate support to friends, family, colleagues, and people around them, simply because they don't know what to say or do, or because they fear they will make things worse. So people retreat and inadvertently increase the social isolation of those with a mental health problem. So mental health first aid was developed to counter this by increasing mental health literacy to recognize signs and symptoms, by increasing helping behaviors. So this training gives participants more confidence and skills to provide help to someone with emerging problems or in a crisis, and also by decreasing stigma. So what does this mean for your organization? Well, 1 in 6 employees are likely to experience problems with stress, anxiety, or depression at any one time. In Canada, 1 in 5 people will experience a mental health problem or illness, with those in their early working years being most affected. And by age 35, about 50% of the population will have or has had a mental illness. Now, because we spend most of our waking hours in the workplace, colleagues are often best placed to recognize a change in behavior in one another. For example, Anna has a pattern of eating lunch with the usual group of colleagues, but in recent weeks has been keeping to herself and not engaging with others. With mental health first aid training, Anna's colleagues will feel more confident to approach her about her change in behavior and ask if everything's okay. They're able to start a conversation, ask questions, ask appropriate follow-up questions, and provide encouragement and steer her towards appropriate resources. So I just talked why mental health first aid. Mental health problems are common. Members of the general public often don't know how to respond. They don't know what to say, or they're afraid of making things worse. Mental health first aid training teaches you what to do next and how to have effective and comfortable conversations. There is stigma associated with mental health problems, and professional help is not always on hand. In fact, wait times up to 18 months can be expected in certain areas. People may lack insight to realize they need help or that help is available. Mental health first aid has very much been evaluated and has been shown to achieve these outcomes. Employees certified to provide mental health first aid can promote good mental health while preventing psychological harm in the workplace. Mental health first aid trained employees will equip your organization to recognize and understand symptoms of mental health problems, including those related to substance abuse. They will also provide help to prevent mental health problems from developing into a more serious state. They can promote the recovery of good mental health by accommodating employees in distress or recovering from a crisis. And they can also increase productivity, reduce absenteeism, and overall pressure on benefits. So the aims of mental health first aid are very similar to those of physical first aid, with the added complexities of stigma and discrimination. So with physical first aid, we aim to preserve life, stop injury or illness from getting worse, promote healing, and provide comfort to the ill or injured. With mental health first aid, we aim to preserve life if a person may be a danger to themselves. We also aim to provide help to prevent the mental health problem from getting worse. We promote the recovery of mental health and wellness, and we also aim to provide comfort to the person going through a mental health challenge. So what does the course content look like? What can you expect from the basic training? The first day starts with an overview of mental health and mental health problems. It delves into substance-related disorders and mood disorders. The second day discusses anxiety and trauma-related disorders, as well as psychotic disorders. And just like the ABCs of physical first aid, mental health first aid offers the ALGE acronym that participants internalize as the foundation of the course. So ALGE stands for A, assess the risk of suicide and/or harm. L is for listening non-judgmentally. G is to give reassurance and information. E is to encourage the person to get appropriate professional help and to encourage other supports. Each of the 4 sections of the course offers a case study during which participants have a chance to practice ALGE with regards to very specific situations. And a quick note here that mental health first aid does not train people to become counselors or therapists. It's not about diagnosing a mental illness, and it's not about being ongoing support. It's about a first aid intervener to provide encouragement to seek appropriate professional help. The intended audience is everyone. So currently in front of you, you'll see a current map of all mental health first aid training delivered across Canada. As you can see, we're active in every province and territory. On any given day, courses are offered in locations across the country. We currently have over 1,000 active instructors, and since 2007, 208,000 Canadians have been trained in mental health first aid. Those individuals work in organizations in every sector, including oil and gas, construction, education, first responders, social services, correctional services, and healthcare, just to name a few. By now, you must be curious about your options to take the training, and there are several. First, it's possible to bring the training to your workplace. You can also attend a public course in your city or town, and I'll tell you how to find those in just a moment. You may also contact a certified instructor in your area to deliver the course to a local group or to your workplace. Large organizations often explore the 4th option, as it's more sustainable in the long term, to train members of your team to become mental health first aid certified instructors. This will allow your organization to meet ongoing training needs. So just a bit more on the instructor application process for those who are interested. We do require 2 years experience working in a frontline position supporting individuals living with mental health problems. So examples of those frontline positions include case manager, crisis worker, social worker, psychiatric nurse, psychologist, peer support workers. In addition to that, we're looking for good knowledge of mental disorders and their treatment, experience delivering training and teaching effectively to adult learners. We're also looking for good interpersonal communication skills, a knowledge of the range of mental health services, positive attitudes towards people with mental health problems, and also enthusiasm to reduce stigma and discrimination associated with mental illness. And in front of you, you have some contact information if you are looking to access a list of our public courses. Our website is mentalhealthfirstaid.ca. If you're looking to type just 4 letters, it's mhfa.ca. And also, if you would interested in organizing a course for your workplace, we would love to hear from you. Email and telephone number on the screen. Email is mhfa@mentalhealthcommission.ca. Also have a toll-free number if you'd like to reach us, 1-866-989-3985. If you're frantically looking to jot down this information, it will be available again at the end of the webinar, as well as some time, I think, allotted for question and answer period, so I look forward to your questions. That's all for me, being courteous of time to the other presenters. I think next up we have my colleague Sue Mercer, who will give us a bit more information about the Working Mind training program. Over to you, Sue.
Thank you, Amy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a newer program at the Commission called the Working Mind. and it's not quite as established as mental health first aid. We had quite a long, extensive research phase and just started offering the program in March. The Working Mind comes out of some work that National Defense had done several years ago. D&D realized that they had some challenges with people coming back from overseas. So they did some work with Stéphane Grenier, who had done a lot of work with peer support within D&D and developed a mental health continuum. They looked at research from the U.S. Navy to develop what's called a Big Four, which I'll go into in a little bit. And they evaluated a lot of their participants, so it was quite a strong evidence base. We worked with D&D to develop 2 programs at the Commission. One is called Road to Mental Readiness, which is for the first responder world, so fire, police, paramedics, 911, and the Working Mind, which I'm going to talk to you about today, which is for the general workforce. Both programs have the same core components, but they vary in the way that they work with examples, scenarios, videos, etc. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. The Working Mind is an education-based prevention program. We really want to look at reducing the stigma of mental illness. So we use what's called contact-based education. So we use videos of people who have experienced mental illness, have left work, returned to work, talked about stigma. We look at myth-busting, facts. So we really want to take a look at how to reduce stigma overall. We teach the Big Four. So we teach coping skills and resiliency skills that will help you and your coworkers deal with what life has in front of you, both at home and at work. And we spend a lot of time looking at the mental health continuum model. So the objectives are to reduce the stigma of mental illness, promote mental health in the workplace, reconceptualize how people talk and think about mental health. That's a big one because people have a thought of how they think about mental health, and we want you to change that way. We then help you identify poor mental health in yourself and others, and then a big thing is we teach coping skills to manage the stress so that your mental health can improve. Overall, that creates a more supportive environment. So why do we want to reduce stigma? You know, people think, well, you know, is it that important? Well, we do know that 50 to 66% of people will not seek help. We hear stories of people getting help for certain illnesses, returning to work, and the stigma, they say, was worse than the illness. So when coworkers see that, they feel, you know, I'm not going to certainly get help. Why do we want to reduce stigma? Well, if you have earlier help seeking, you have a better prognosis and outcome. It's a culture shift in thinking and attitude, so everyone starts to think differently and look at mental illness the same way you look at physical illness. And increased productivity. We hear a lot about presenteeism, where people make themselves go to work because they feel if they don't go to work and they seek help, then they will be judged. So they make themselves go to work, but they just sort of exist when they get there because they're struggling with what's actually going on with themselves. So the basis of the Working Mind is the continuum model. So D&D found, and then we've also found in our work, that people were always seeing as healthy or ill. So you're healthy, you're feeling well, life is good, you know, you're experiencing no real problems with anything, but then you start to get sick. You get a diagnosis of mental illness and you're ill. And most times people would just leave work and you'd never see them again. So you'd have conversations with people of, oh yeah, so-and-so was here, but they're not anymore. They went off sick. And that was the end of it. Then we looked at something called the mental health continuum model, and we thought, you know, people are more than just green and red. They're on a continuum. If you see the arrow below the 4 colors, it goes back and forth. So we want you to learn that yourself and your coworkers, you can be anywhere on this continuum. If you're green, your mental health is good, you're sleeping okay, you're eating okay, you know, you're dealing with what life has in front of you, and you're not feeling overly stressed about it. You can move into the yellow, where you start to get some symptoms that show you that maybe things aren't quite as good as they should be. Maybe you're having a little trouble sleeping. Maybe your normal time to go to sleep is 10, and you're finding that you're not able to fall asleep until midnight. Or you usually go to bed at 10, you sleep till 8, but you find you're waking up more and not being able to get back to sleep. If you don't seek help, or if you don't get some support for yourself, you know, just generally in your life to deal with what's happening, you could move into the injured phase. But this is more severe functional impairment. And this is where people can really start to notice or start to be worried about you, or you're worried about yourself. And again, if you don't seek the right support or you seek help, you then may end up with diagnosable mental illness. The important thing here is that if you are having a diagnosable mental illness, or if you are in the red, that you can get back to the green. And you can get back to the green via various methods, some of which are the ones we teach in the course, others are seeking professional help. So when we teach people where you are on the continuum and how that's important, we also want to teach you how to take care of yourself and how to build that resiliency within yourself. So we teach what's called the Big Four: SMART goal setting, mental rehearsal, positive self-talk, and diaphragmatic breathing. So these are 4 skills that many people have probably heard of. Some of them are used in sports psychology. Some are used in, workplaces, such as SMART goal setting. Diaphragmatic breathing are used in various yoga or Pilates. So we teach these and we practice them in the course so that people learn how to use them when necessary. In the leadership course, we teach people how, as leaders, you can use these to support your staff, but also to support yourself in your role. The one thing we did with the Working Mind and the Road to Mental Readiness for First Responders was that we evaluated it. We wanted to know, does this work? So we had several projects work with us across Canada, and they did pre and post surveys. So they took the course, they did a test before the course, they did a test after the course, and we did follow up with them 3 months later, because we wanted to know, does this work? There's so many courses out there looking at mental health in the workplace, but as part of Opening Minds, we like to research and evaluate everything we do. So we evaluated several thousand respondents, both from R2MR and the Working Mind, and what we found was that there's a significant decrease in stigmatizing attitudes in managers, a significant decrease in stigmatizing attitudes of employees, and this was at the 3-month follow-up. The other important thing we found is that there was a significant increase in resiliency skills. So people felt, wow, those Big Four that you're teaching us, I use them, and they do make a difference. And then we found a significant increase in overall resiliency in mental health and well-being. So people felt better about themselves 3 months later. Qualitatively, we've heard that people liked the course, dispel the myths. It gave practical skills, so they learned how to identify where they were on the continuum or where maybe their coworkers were. It was relevant to real-life situations, and the videos were excellent. It was well presented. It was engaging. So it's a very interactive course, and this is what we heard back from people. So as of 2016, we've trained approximately 6,300 people in the Working Mind. About 149 of those are trainers, and we've trained about 26,000 in R2MR, and about 597 are trainers. So we offer a Train the Trainer program, which is how most people to date have chosen to take the course. As I said, this is a very new course since March, and employers have reached out to us and had their own Train the Trainers. So right now, we're offering it internally. We work with employers, they train their own trainers, and then those trainers then offer the course to their staff. What we're going to do in 2017 is we're going to start offering public courses. So courses that Mental Health Commission of Canada host, our master trainers will teach them, but you will be able to sign up for them, you will be able to send your staff, and you will either be able to have your own trainers or you will be able to attend a day-long course or a half-day course. The courses are, I'll just go into a little bit, we have a full-day leadership course and a half-day employee course. So the full-day leadership and the half-day course teach the main components that I just talked about, but they also, the leadership course will then go into how to support staff who have a mental illness, how to increase the productivity of your staff around mental health in the workplace, how to have a better workplace, and how to support each other. So if you want to be a trainer for your workplace, there's a couple of things we look for. We have a guide that we do give employers as how to choose a trainer. We want people to have an interest in mental health and well-being and a sense of commitment to the cause of reducing stigma. We want them to be good trainers. We knew from our research phase that we had excellent people come forward that said, this is amazing, I would love to do this, but they couldn't train, they couldn't teach. And that's not to say that they couldn't go away and learn that and come back, but just because you're a clinician or because you work in a certain area does not mean that you're, at this point in your life, ready to teach. So we really want effective communication, interpersonal skills, and we want experience in the organization and understanding of your workplace issues. So what's going on where you are, and what, why do we want this course here? And the other thing that's really important is that you are respected and trustworthy by your peers. We also know from our research that sometimes, somebody has had some challenges at work and they may not be in a place where others really want to take courses from them at that point. So then we look at, okay, how can we support them? How can the employer support them? And then they can come back and be a trainer at another time. But as I said, we have a guideline that helps people choose trainers. So that's basically the Working Mind in a very quick run-through. I'm certainly happy to answer questions when we get to the chat site, but if you have more questions or you want information on courses, either an employer offering a course, so hosting your own Train the Trainer or having somebody come in and teach your staff, or if you want to know about the public course, please feel free to email us at the email address on your page. Okay, so over to Carolyn.
Thank you. It is a privilege to talk about the working mind and mental health first aid and the experience of the province of Nova Scotia. So to let you know who we are as an organization, the Nova Scotia Civil Service consists of more than 10,000 employees serving citizens across all its departments and agencies throughout the province. Approximately 80% of the workforce is unionized. We have regional and urban offices, and we provide a wide variety of public services through a range of departments, agencies, boards, and commissions. Departments range in size from less than 10 to upwards of 2,000 employees. And we have 5 corporate values: respect, integrity, diversity, accountability, and the public good. The province of Nova Scotia officially committed to adopting the standard in April 2014 after beginning work in the area of psychological health and safety in 2013. We started our initiatives in a demonstration department of 400 employees. We quickly learned that 2 foundational pieces that were required to advance our work in psychological health and safety were increased general awareness of what mental health was and reducing the stigma associated with mental illness. These challenges aren't unique to our organization. It is a common misconception that the standard is about mental illness, when in fact, it is not. It is about recognizing that we all have mental health and that there is a need to protect and promote it. It's for everyone. So how did we want to go about communicating that? We had already been providing mental health first aid training to employees for more than 5 years as part of our corporate learning offerings as a non-mandatory course for interested employees. The course was highly acclaimed, and we continue to have a steady enrollment in these classes. We recommend this course for anyone who is a frontline employee, and additionally recommend to departments to have a person designated as a mental health first aider in the same way and ratio that we would recommend physical first aid. What we needed was a course that every employee could take that would improve their understanding of good mental health, declining mental health and mental illness, reduce stigmatizing attitudes, increase awareness of the variety of resources available in our organization that support mental health, and learn some positive coping strategies. We also needed the course to increase manager confidence in supporting workplace mental health. Certainly a tall order for sure. So the Working Mind was the ideal solution to complement the mental health first aid training. In late 2013, we trialed the Working Mind in our psychological and health and safety demonstration department. The evaluation results were overwhelmingly positive, and it became apparent that we could use the language that employees learned to understand mental health in the program and apply it as a common currency to use in our description of resources available, roles and responsibilities with regard to psychological health and safety, and help frame psychological risks and prevention measures. We had top-level organizational support to expand the program and make it accessible to all employees over a 5-year period. Because of this, we needed to have internal capacity to deliver the course. The senior leadership support is also critical because our trainers all do this in addition to their regular work during work time. We have 4 master trainers within our organization, have held 2 train-the-trainer courses, and now have 30 trainers. Over 2,200 employees have participated in the program, primarily at the senior leadership and manager supervisor levels, since we deliver the training in departments in a top-down approach that underscores the importance and common understanding of the principles of the working mind. So in addition to the benefits that Sue and Amy have described of the program separately, we've found additional benefits from using both programs together. Firstly, it provides comprehensive education, so awareness of the full spectrum of mental health and what employees can do for themselves, colleagues, or their clients to support a healthy environment and resources available to support recovery if required. Second, it provides a common platform of understanding. This is essential and helps the training become more than a one-off. The continuum model is very flexible, and the color designations are recognizable. Because of this, we are able to build on the understanding and embed it in other areas of our psychological health and safety work. For example, in our own department, we reference the continuum model as well as provide information about responding to suicide. We have been able to provide education about resources available for employees at every stage of the continuum. The earlier employees can access support, the greater the likelihood they can remain healthy or regain good mental health. And finally, the programs provide tools that can be used to support actions that increase the care we take of ourselves and one another in the workplace, which helps support a culture change of enhanced psychological health and safety. We recently did a survey to collect information to better understand the diversity in our organization, and we saw an increase in the employees who reported a psychological disability, which we relate to the training provided to reduce stigma and making the workplace safer for those to self-identify. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share our experience, and I will pass it back over to you. Tina?
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. It's always great to hear a real-life example from an employer and what they're doing within their organization, so that was very helpful. So we do have time for questions. We tried to be very brief today on our webinar, so we're kind of ahead of schedule. We are, again, just send us our questions and we'll answer them on your behalf. But while we're answering some questions, I just wanted to put up these resources again about some articles and our training program and our website on the national standard as well. So just to start things off, Carolyn, this question is for you. Can you explain how you got, your senior leaders and managers involved getting the buy-in to make time for mental health prevention initiatives such as these two training courses we're talking about today?
Sure. Yeah, for us, it's about an opportunity to walk the talk. So we are one of the province's largest employers and have an obligation and an honor to be a role model in this area. However, for us, it isn't about compliance. It's really the opportunity to support preventative initiatives, and it means that we can show how our words mean action and that it's more than just words that live on a plaque. So the other piece to consider is there's a business case. There are costs to the individuals, families, our communities, and our organization. And if we don't change, and we can see that in some of our indicators when we look at our data such as employee engagement, turnover, respectful workplace complaints, and absenteeism. So for us, the cost of doing nothing is greater than the cost to move forward, and our senior leaders see that.
Great. Thank you again for that. And I just to clarify for our audience, I know we've got two different programs here. And Sue, I was wondering if you could address this question. Could you just summarize again how would you describe the difference between these two training programs?
Well, I think they're both very compatible to each other. We like to look at the Working Mind as very much a prevention program, so everybody can benefit from it. When D&D developed a program for their staff members, they trained everybody from the senior-most person down to the lowest rank. And that's the model we take when we work with employers, that everybody can take this because it's a prevention. It's very complementary to a program like mental health first aid, where employers often choose certain people that are in certain roles to be able to intervene and to have those skills to intervene. So they're very much complementary to each other. And as Carolyn talked about, the approach that the Nova Scotia government took was to offer both courses to their staff to have a more healthier workplace, but knowing that they complement each other.
Thank you, Sue. We're getting a couple of questions about cost. So maybe we could just summarize, explain again the public courses, the trainer. I know it depends on, how many folks you're, might be taking a certain course, but maybe sort of just to help summarize that, how the costing might work. So maybe, Sue, while we've got you on the line, if you could explain that for the working mind.
Certainly. If an employer hosts a Train the Trainer is a 5-day course. It's a 5-day, very intensive course. It's designed for success. There's a lot of practice during the week, and the Friday is an evaluation. If an employer is large enough that they need 24 trainers for their employment, they can train. The cost of that is about $2,000 a trainer to be trained. What happens now is that many employers come together to cost share that. So you may have 6 or 7 employers in the same city or the same town, and they each want so many trainers. So they cost share that with us, and it works out to about $2,000 a trainer. When the public course will be offered in the new year, the cost will be a little bit more. I think it's around $3,000 a trainer. We haven't finalized that yet. But that, because we have to host that and we have to host the site and, those expenses on top of that, we are a nonprofit program, so the expenses that come back in are very much just to run the program. The other option is direct delivery, and that's where you have a trainer, one of our trainers, come and train at your work site. That course varies depending on the number of participants, the number of trainers, the location. So I wouldn't want to quote a price on that, but you could contact our training coordinator to do a budget for you on that.
Thank you very much, Sue, and just Amy jumping in here with a very similar response for mental health first aid. So as I mentioned in my slides, it is possible to become a certified instructor within your organization. It's often a very popular avenue that's explored by large organizations. So there's an application process. It usually takes a couple weeks prior to the actual 5-day training. And the cost associated with that, very similar to what Sue was mentioning, it is $3,000 and, again, a 5-day commitment. But from there, those instructors can come back to your organization and train employees on an ongoing basis. There's also the option to take a public course. Again, mentalhealthfirstaid.ca lists all our courses from coast to coast. So you're able to search by province and by type of course. If you're interested in the basic, you can select basic in your province, and you're able to see all the upcoming training. The cost for that does vary. It's up to the instructor, so instructors set the fees, but you can expect a cost of about $100 to $300 for that 2-day training. And again, as Sue mentioned, to bring the course to your workplace, that is also an option, and my response is similar to hers. It varies by the number of participants. The minimum number to bring the training to your workplace is 8, and the maximum is 25. And of course, if you'd like more information, I invite you to contact us, mhfa@mentalhealthcommission.ca.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amy. We just have a question about, so if you are a trainer, does a trainer have to, deliver a number of courses in order to keep their certification? Do they need to have a refresher course? Amy?
Yes, again, so for mental health first aid, our requirement is that instructors deliver 3 courses per year to remain an active instructor.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I'm just,
yes?
Do you want to know about the Working Mind?
That would be lovely. Thank you, Sue.
Sorry. So the requirement for the Working Mind is 3 courses over 2 years. What we've found is that many places, when all their staff have taken the course, they then want to know what can their trainers continue to teach, because the course is a half day and a full day. And starting in January, we'll be offering a family package so that instructors can teach family members if they're interested, and also a booster sessions. So we call them top-up or booster sessions, because we do know that in order to change behavior, it's important to continue to learn and to teach throughout your whole career. So these booster sessions will be parts of the Working Mind, some new modules that are being developed, and instructors who have been trained can teach those to staff, and that counts as one of their courses.
Wonderful, thank you. We've had a question around liability. Is there liability issues with respect to having a team member training employees on site at the workplace? Carolyn, is there a response to that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, our employees are already on the work site, so there isn't any greater liability. And in fact, I would say it reduces our liability because at least what we know is we are getting proper training. So they know that they are getting quality training from someone who has now been certified. So, and in fact, you can demonstrate that they are getting good information. So that's been helpful.
And if I just want to jump in here, Sue, the important factor about the Working Mind is that we do not talk diagnosis. We don't teach diagnosis. We teach basically good mental health. And so what you're teaching your coworkers is how to use the skills that they're taught to just better take care of themselves.
Perfect. And Carolyn, just curious, because a number of folks have asked about, again, senior executives. Have you had senior leaders take the training as well?
Yeah, so we actually start from the very top. So when I say top down, it is from the very top. So yes, in fact, many of and most of our deputy ministers have taken the training. And it's really critical because how else do they then tell employees that it's okay, right? Like you're asking a big commitment sometimes, a day or 2 days out of the office, depending on the program. And to not see it as a cost, but to see it as an investment, the best thing they can do is to do it themselves because it demonstrates. If you say, yeah, it's okay, go to that training, but, the work is still on their desk, it's very hard. They're conflicted. But if they are taking the time, again, like I said, the walking, the talk is so critical, and it provides a great opportunity. And it is also consistent messaging. So, like I said, this is something that there is a program for employees and an expanded version for managers because it is commensurate with their authority and what they can offer and support in a workplace. So it is designed that way to give managers more tools and for them to be able to respond. So it's really critical that everyone in the organization is speaking the same language and knows where people are coming from. Otherwise, there's a disconnect and, it's just not going to be as effective.
And I can just add to that, Tina, because the Nova Scotia government was one of our pilot sites and research sites, they followed our process and our recommendation, which is certainly managers and leaders take the course before employees. And for the reasons that Carolyn outlined, we do recommend that as our gold star. So if you want to roll this out with the best option for success is to try and get your HR, occupational health, managers, leaders, CEOs to take the course. It sends the big message of, wow, this employer is really serious about this versus they're just checking a box. And also we do know that once employees take the course, they start to talk the language sometimes and saying, you know what, I'm having a bit of a yellow day today. Or, maybe I'm worried about so-and-so, they might be going into the orange. And managers, if they don't know what they're talking about, can act a little bit confused.
Well, thank you for that. Carolyn, the Public Service Commission of Nova Scotia is truly a great champion in this area. And just, I do apologize. I know I might be asking some of the questions that you've already answered, but we have a number of our webinar attendees. They're in different. They ask about how to implement different programs when they're large organizations across different sites. So have you implemented the program for managers and employees like across the province as well in different locations?
Yes, absolutely. And that was part of selecting the trainers so that we wanted, again, as Sue mentioned in her address, was that there is some research to support that people in the audience want to hear from someone that's credible. So the person standing in the front of the room needs to know what their day looks like. So it was really important for us to have trainers that could be able to go back to their home departments. So we actually have our trainers and the numbers based on our demographics of our regionality and the work that is done, as well as the department.
Okay, great. I just wanted to tackle another question about cost, just so that everything is clear. Amy, are there discounts available for organizations that want to train all managers and supervisors, or just select groups within an organization?
Certainly. So depending on the nature of your organization, we do have different pricing structures for organizations that are smaller or their nature is not-for-profit or smaller affiliated groups. So again, I invite organizations to get in touch with us, and we are happy to explore costing. But there certainly are discounts also available for, volume of courses. If you're looking sort of to implement a larger initiative, that can certainly be a discussion as well for mental health first aid.
Okay. And would that be the same for the Working Mind as well, Sue?
So at this point right now, the costs that we're quoting are costs that we created in March because we're fairly new, and we've only been working with fairly large employers, but it is something that we have looked at as we start to get more requests from various sectors. So that's not to say that we won't look at that, but we don't have an answer right now.
Wonderful, thank you. I know that we're just getting off the ground, and as both Sue and Amy mentioned, we are not-for-profit, and the cost of running the program is just cost recovery. So we're not making profits off this. It's just really to run the programs here. We just had a question about mental health first aid. How often does not a trainer but a person, how often should they take the course? Do they need a refresher? Do you need to be recertified? So can you answer that, Amy?
Certainly, again. So I did see that somebody did answer the question, so thank you, Stacey, for answering the question. It is, we do recommend a refresher every 2 years to, bring yourself up to date on the concepts and the helpful behaviors. So it is encouraged that participants take the course, again, every 2 years.
Okay, wonderful. And we have a question about the length of courses. So let's just start with mental health first aid again, just to summarize again for our folks. How long is the course? Is it given in shorter, a half day? Are there possibilities to shorten the course? Or how long is the course? Thank you, Amy.
So I will jump in for mental health first aid. Again, it is a 2-day course. The basic training, the duration is 12 hours. It is not currently available online, and the format is in person. But there is some flexibility if you are interested. It's tough to take time away from the workplace, so there is flexibility, whether it needs to be 2 consecutive days. It can also be 2 non-consecutive days, or if you'd like to take 4 mornings or afternoons, there's the possibility to take the training in 3-hour blocks, so either mornings of 3 hours in 4 sessions.
Okay. Sue, do you have anything?
Yeah, so certainly. So for a train the trainer, so if someone wants to be a trainer, it's a 5-day course, Monday to Friday. You're then able to teach a full-day leadership course and a half-day employee course. So that means that for managers, leaders, anybody in a supervisory position, their course is 1 day. We have had some employers that have split that into 2 days, but we strongly encourage that the length of time between, 2 days, so 2 half days, that the length of time not be more than a week or 2 weeks apart, because you lose that impact of what you'd learned in half of it. But the half-day course is taught in one chunk because it is fairly interactive, so it's hard to break that up. And then the booster sessions that I talked about that will be available in the new year will be anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours in length, and that can be taught by the trainer also.
Okay, great. Now, I know that we've mentioned that each of the 2 courses are complementary to one another, but perhaps I'm just going to throw this question out from one of our attendees. Is there a sequence recommended for taking mental health first aid or the Working Mind? I know they work in conjunction with one another, but Sue, have you come across this or any suggestions?
No, certainly Carolyn can probably answer that because she's offered both at her workplace, but our experience working with employers is that some choose one, some choose the other, some choose both, but none of them have said that they feel that one has to be in any particular order.
And I would agree that is our experience, and we understand there's operational needs that need to be considered. So we just encourage employers and the employees to support whatever training meets their need at that time, and it's worked out very well regardless. Some have had a mental health first aid before the working mind and the other vice versa, and it has been very effective.
Okay, wonderful. I just wanted to address, there was a comment about a mental health strategy or implementation guide that can be used. So again, right here on our resource page on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see it says assembling the pieces. So that is an implementation guide to help you with implementation of the national standard, which can be quite a technical document. So the implementation guide really goes into a step-by-step process about the standard and what you can do within your organization. The Mental Health Commission of Canada has produced a mental health strategy for Canada, and that is also on our website at www.mentalhealthcommission.ca. So our mental health strategy is online that outlines the recommendations for Canada, and one of the recommendations is to create a mentally healthy workplace, and then that's how these training programs and the national standard has been developed as a result of our overall strategy. So with that in mind, and to keep on schedule, so thank you again, speakers, for answering all of the questions. You can certainly send me an email. It was in the webinar invitation. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. I just wanted to give you a heads up that our next webinar is on November 30th. And it will focus on the Royal Canadian Mint, and they're going to be telling us about their journey and how they implemented their mental health strategy. So please join us. And once I close down the webinar, a survey will pop up, so we do appreciate it if you fill out the survey. That will greatly help us going forward as well. And on behalf of all of us, I just wanted to thank you, and especially my speakers, my guest speakers today, Carolyn, Amy, and Sue. Again, I will be posting the actual slides and recording on our website, so all of the information will be there for you as well. So with that in mind, we finished a couple of minutes early. Again, thank you for attending, and see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.